Spider-Man Brand New Day is looking up to being the biggest movie of 2026, and the trailer speaks for it. 718 million views in its first 24 hours is record-breaking, and just shows how much hype is being surrounded by this film. Today, I wanted to talk about a theory that I've come up with after watching this trailer, and revisiting older Spider-Man projects. It may not be a very popular theory at the moment, but could easily become one in the coming future with Avengers Secret Wars coming next year. And yes, the theory is about the infamous but popular symbiote that we all know and love. And now this theory is not directly going to tackle characters like Venom or Scream or the other symbiotes, because I'm not necessarily trying to take an approach on them. And it wouldn't exactly make sense considering these characters are, well, dead as of Venom in The Last Dance. And now I know there was the post-credit scene from No Way Home in The Last Dance, but I'm only going to account for the post-credit from No Way Home because it obviously means something for Brand New Day. And now, if you don't already know, the symbiote and black suit Spider-Man made its debut in the Secret Wars comics when Spider-Man was on Battleground. And if you have read the comics, then you would know Peter didn't just use it as Spider-Man for battle purposes, but as Peter Parker himself, in which he would use it so he could manipulate it into things like clothes. And we would see something similar to this in Marvel Spider-Man 2, when the symbiote morphs into a tuxedo so Peter can investigate the ritual that the hunters are doing in the party. Now, to reinforce this is my personal theory that I have thought about and constructed. And if you guys would like to share your own theories, then leave them in the comments down below. I always read my comments and love interacting with you all. And with that said, let's get right into this theory. As we know, Brand New Day shows us a Peter Parker we haven't properly seen. Sad, depressed, and honestly, it's what all of us as Spidey fans have been wanting to see on the big screen. This could be the perfect opportunity to bring in something like the symbiote, and to at least at the minimum, introduce it in this movie as set up for Avengers Secret Wars, where the symbiote and Peter are going to be integral. One of the main plots introduced in the Brand New Day trailer is that Peter's powers are beginning to mutate, and he's sort of rebirthing into a real spider, which drives us into the theory that Peter is going to become Man-Spider in this film. And Man-Spider is an actual threat because Peter could lose control of himself, and instead of the symbiote making things worse, I could argue that the symbiote could bond with him in a controlled way to suppress the mutation or regulate his biology, acting like a fix to keep him from losing himself to a monstrous form. And this has been seen before in adaptations like Marvel Spider-Man 2, where Peter was revived by the symbiote and Harry's sickness was being treated by the symbiote. This flips the usual symbiote arc on its head, it's a symbiotic ally rather than a corrupting influence. In this scenario, Peter doesn't become, Venom-style evil. Instead, he gains the symbiote's stability and the strength as a temporary therapeutic bond that could grow into something bigger going into Secret Wars. We already know a fragment or trace of a symbiote exists in the MCU that from the No Way Home post-credit scene, so the door for it to show up again is open. And considering the tone of this movie in comparison to the Home trilogy, the symbiote could have a great impact and really drive Peter in such a direction that shows a completely different side that we really saw at only the end of No Way Home when he was fighting Goblin, but even worse. Because the stakes are higher than ever. If Peter's powers are mutating into something uncontrollable, the symbiote doesn't just give him more strength, it actually could be the key to survival. Imagine a scene where Peter, on the brink of fully transforming into Man-Spider, is panicking, losing control, and the symbiote tentatively wraps around him, not as a villain, but almost as a nurse, stabilizing his biology and smoothing out the mutation in real time. That could be visually incredible on screen. It shows the symbiote as more than a weapon, but actually a living reactive entity that is fully aware of Peter's fragility. And this approach would also tie directly into the psychological arc of Brand New Day. Peter isn't just fighting external threats, he's wrestling with his own inner demons, the loneliness, the depression, and now a physical transformation that could literally consume him. The symbiote becomes a metaphor for that internal struggle, a force that could corrupt him if misused, but that also has the potential to heal or stabilize. It's a completely fresh take that we haven't really seen in the MCU yet. Now here's where it all could lead into Avengers Secret Wars, because if Peter forms a bond with the symbiote in Brand New Day, it sets up an incredibly high stakes payoff later. By the time Secret Wars rolls around, Peter could either fully embrace the symbiote as a controlled ally or face the classic temptation, power versus morality. And since Secret Wars deals with the multiverse and battles on a cosmic scale, having Peter already bonded with the symbiote adds layers of strategy, tension, and even a heartbreak, because the symbiote isn't just a tool, but it's actually a living being with its own desires. And another fun angle to look at it is that the symbiote could also help Peter innovate his suit powers in real time. Remember how in the comics it could morph into different costumes or weapons? Imagine that translated into MCU visuals. Peter instantly adapts to threats, armor forms on demand, or maybe he even experiments with stealth or infiltration. showing a more cunning, resourceful side we haven't fully explored, and that would make Brand New Day feel like the perfect bridge between the home trilogy's emotional beats and the full-scale chaos of Secret Wars. And one thing that I'll talk about is how they implement that in Spider-Man 2. We see the different abilities like Symbiote Yank, Symbiote Punch, and I think that these are some things that could be adapted into Secret Wars or Brand New Day. And like I said, it would be really cool to see that. So my takeaway, Brand New Day isn't just setting up a darker, more introspective Spider-Man, it's quietly planting the seeds for the symbiote arc that could redefine the next phase of the MCU. Peter's journey from struggling hero to potential Spider-Man with the symbiote as a stabilizing ally rather than a corrupting villain could give us some of the most visually striking and emotionally resonant Spider-Man storytelling we've ever seen. With that, I want to hear what you guys think. Could the symbiote really act as a healing partner rather than a threat, or do you think Marvel will stick to the classic dark evil influence route? Drop your theories in the comments below, because this could be the start of a huge discussion leading up to Secret Wars, and trust me, I'll be reading almost every comment. With that said, this is Red Swan, signing off.